The girl overheard the guard speaking Chinese and warned the millionaire not to get into the car. Don't forget to write in the comments which country you're watching us from. Evening fell with the chill of the glass windows of the corporate building, as a powerful businessman, just exiting a meeting that would decide millions, was stopped by a small but firm voice. In front of him stood a girl no older than 7, looking at him with disconcerting seriousness. Her clothes were simple but clean. Her hair was tied into neat braids, and her face showed a determination unusual for her age. "They said your car will explode," she whispered in pure Spanish, looking him straight in the eyes with such sincerity that a chill ran down his spine. The man frowned, leaning toward her with skepticism. His first thought was that it was some childish prank or misunderstanding. Behind him, 4 of his personal bodyguards were quietly chatting, seemingly relaxed, occasionally glancing at the black limousine parked near the entrance. But the girl insisted with a conviction that sent goosebumps down his skin. Her tiny hands clenched into fists, her eyes locked on his face. "What did you say?" the millionaire asked, trying to mask his surprise and growing unease. His voice trembled slightly, but professional composure helped him maintain an outward calm. The girl clenched her fists even tighter and repeated, this time firmly and louder. "I heard them. They were speaking Chinese. They said your car will explode when you start it. They were laughing and said it would look like an accident." The silence between them grew heavy, almost tangible. The millionaire knew basic Chinese from his business dealings, enough to hold negotiations and understand general phrases, but he could never have imagined that a little girl could understand conversations he himself would barely be able to decipher. He felt his heart beat faster and his mouth went dry. He looked at her with a mix of doubt and respect, because her eyes showed no fear, only the urgency of someone who was telling the truth and understood the gravity of the moment. Her small face was pale but determined. "Where did you learn Chinese?" he asked, lowering his voice slightly, glancing toward the bodyguards who still paid them no attention. "My grandmother taught me," she replied without hesitation, a note of pride in her voice. "She's from China. She moved here many years ago. She taught me, said it's important to know other people's languages. And they were speaking very fast," she continued, using complicated words. "But I understood. They talked about a device, about a timer, about how you'd get into the car and everything would be over. They said they were waiting for the sound, that chaos would start afterward, and no one would suspect them, because they're just guards and they'd look shocked and scared." The millionaire subtly turned toward the bodyguards who now, he noticed, seemed to be watching the main entrance with unusual focus. One of them kept glancing at his watch. Another was nervously fiddling with something in his pocket. His chest tightened. His breathing quickened. Every fiber of his instinct, honed in boardrooms full of betrayal, corporate warfare, and hidden threats, screamed at him that he could not ignore the words of this girl. The girl. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "You know what you're saying. This is a very serious accusation. If you're wrong—" "Yes, I know," she interrupted him, her voice suddenly firm. She stared at him, unblinking. "I'm not wrong. I heard every word. They were standing next to that tree." She pointed to a large tree a few meters from the entrance. "They thought no one would understand them. But I do. Don't get in that car. Please. Believe me." The air around them grew heavier, like before a thunderstorm. The millionaire swallowed hard, trying to maintain his composure and gather his thoughts. For years, he had been surrounded by private security professionals with impeccable records. People who had sworn to protect him with their lives, who had passed the strictest background checks, psychological evaluations. But this warning shook him more than anything ever had. It made him question everything he thought he knew. He stepped back, feeling the ground slipping from beneath his feet, and with a firm voice, careful not to draw attention, he called one of his trusted aides. "Tony, bring me Sanchez. Just him, and right now. Tell him I need to speak with him privately, urgently." The assistant, a young man in a sharp suit with a tablet in his hand, looked at his boss in surprise but obeyed without question. The millionaire avoided looking at the guards directly but could feel their eyes on him, heavy, assessing. As if they knew something had leaked. As if their plan was now in danger. He leaned closer to the girl, crouching down to her eye level. "Listen to me carefully," he said in a low voice, almost a whisper. His face was serious. "If what you're saying is true, you're in real danger. These people won't forgive anyone who exposes them. They won't let a witness walk away. Do you understand? The girl pressed her lips together, and for a second, fear flickered in her eyes, but she quickly pulled herself together. I don't care, came her response, her voice trembling slightly. My grandmother always told me that if I could help someone not die, I should speak up, even if it's scary. She said silence makes us part of the evil. I can't be silent. Those words pierced him more deeply than any advice from his financial consultants, more than any business strategy or plan. At that moment, the millionaire, a man who had built a billion-dollar empire, felt the weight of his fortune, his business, his tailored suits, and his luxurious life collapse in the face of the simple but extraordinary bravery of a little girl. He saw in her something he had long lost himself. A pure, unshaken courage to do the right thing regardless of the consequences. The assistant returned with Sanchez, a tall man in his 50s, with graying temples and a sharp, discerning gaze. The only man among the security team the millionaire trusted completely. Sanchez had been with him for over 15 years. He had been through dozens of dangerous situations, assassination attempts, and threats. He was more than a bodyguard. He was a friend. The millionaire motioned for him to come closer and spoke in a low tone, barely audible, without taking his eyes off the other guards. Sanchez, I need you to check the car. Right now. But do it casually like it's just routine. Don't raise any suspicion. And be ready for anything. Sanchez, a professional to his core, held his gaze for a second, reading the seriousness and urgency on his employer's face. He gave a silent nod and walked toward the black limousine parked just meters from the entrance. His movements were calm, steady, routine. Just a normal pre-departure safety check. The guards watched him, their bodies visibly tensing. They exchanged quick glances and brief words in Chinese, too fast, too quiet for the millionaire to clearly understand. He tried desperately to catch fragments of meaning, but it was useless. Their hands moved instinctively toward the hidden weapons beneath their jackets. The businessman's heart pounded violently. He could feel the pulse hammering in his temples. Something was about to explode, literally or metaphorically. The little girl gripped his suit jacket with her small hand. Her fingers were trembling. And for the first time in many years, the man who had dominated boardrooms, crushed opponents in ruthless negotiations, and controlled the fate of thousands of employees, felt real, primal fear for his life. Suddenly, one of the guards, the tallest with a scar on his cheek, stepped forward, wearing a professional smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. Senior, the car is ready and waiting. We must leave immediately. You have a meeting in 40 minutes across the city. Considering the traffic, we shouldn't linger here. We need to leave now. The millionaire took a deep breath, forcing himself to breathe evenly. His gaze shifted between the girl, who still clung to his suit like a lifeline, and the bodyguards who were pressuring him. Their faces wore masks of professional concern, but their eyes betrayed something else, impatience and something darker, anticipation. He still couldn't confirm anything for certain, but he knew that one wrong move might very well be his last. And just then, at the very height of the tension, Sanchez raised his hand from the car and made a sharp, urgent gesture. It was a signal only the millionaire recognized. A code for danger developed over years of working together. Sanchez's face was pale, his eyes wide open. The tension in the air became unbearable, thick like fog. The millionaire felt his throat tighten, his breath catch in his chest. The bodyguards snapped their heads toward Sanchez. Their hands moved toward their weapons. The masks of professionalism began to fall away, revealing cold determination underneath. The girl tugged on his arm with desperation, trying to pull him away from the danger. The fate of everyone present was now hanging in the balance. The next few seconds would decide everything. Belle, if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. The guards began moving quickly toward the car. Their motions turned sharp, calculated. It was clear they were trying to block Sanchez's view and access, to distract him. The millionaire understood instantly. His suspicions were true. The air felt charged as if lightning was about to strike. Everyone there knew. The next step, the next word, could cost someone their life. And as the girl looked up at him with wide, frightened, yet still resolute eyes, he finally understood. There was no turning back. This wasn't a drill. This wasn't a mistake. The first part ends here, echoing the uncomfortable, terrifying truth. Someone inside his own carefully selected security team wanted him dead. Had planned his assassination down to the last detail. And the only person who warned him, who saved him from certain death, was a 7-year-old girl he had never seen before in his life. The millionaire kept his eyes locked on the guards, who were now approaching the car quickly. His breathing was slow and controlled, honed through years of negotiating under pressure. But inside, his heart was hammering like a blacksmith's mallet. The girl still clung to his suit jacket, her body trembling, but her eyes reflected the same firmness and resolve she had shown when she first warned him. Suddenly Sanchez raised his voice, loud and clear for all to hear. His professional tone couldn't hide the alarm behind it. "Senor, do not approach the vehicle under any circumstances. There is an explosive device installed in the engine. I see wires and a timer. This is professional work." Silence shattered like a glass dome. The guards froze for a moment, looked at each other, and in that instant their expressions changed. The friendly facade vanished. In its place appeared the cold precision of trained killers. One of them, the tall one with the scar, stepped forward, still trying to smile. But the smile was crooked, forced, unnatural. "Must be a mistake, boss. Sanchez must have misread something. We checked everything ourselves this morning. Everything was fine. Let me take another look." The millionaire stared at him with a steel-hard gaze he hadn't used in years. The same iron resolve that had once taken him from nothing to the top of the business world. "Then explain something to me," he said, his voice quiet, but each word hit like a hammer. "Why is Sanchez, the only man I trust completely, the man who saved my life 3 times, telling me the opposite? Explain why you're all so nervous. Why you keep checking your watches every 30 seconds. The tension was unbearable now. The air felt thick and heavy as if time itself was holding its breath. The girl was breathing unevenly, clinging to his leg, seeking protection. And in that moment, the millionaire finally and irrevocably understood, with every fiber of his being, that this little girl had truly saved his life. Without her, he would now be sitting in that car, turning the ignition key. And his own bodyguards, the men he paid enormous sums, the ones he trusted with his safety, had coldly and methodically planned his death. Suddenly one of the guards, the youngest, made a sharp move toward the inside pocket of his jacket where, clearly, a weapon was hidden. But the millionaire raised his hand in a commanding gesture. His voice rang out loud and firm. "Don't even try. Your game ends here and now. Every move you make is being recorded by the security cameras, and there are witnesses all around." Indeed, the building's security, noticing the tense situation, had already begun moving toward them. Several guards were approaching. A few passers-by had stopped, pulling out their phones. Curious and alarmed eyes fell upon the group. The traders realized they had lost control, that their carefully planned operation had failed, all because of a little girl. One of them, the oldest, muttered something in Chinese, his face twisted with suppressed rage and frustration. Without hesitation, showing remarkable courage, the girl translated aloud for everyone to hear. "He says it doesn't matter that the plan failed. Sooner or later they or someone else will still get you. That people like you always get eliminated. That you've made too many enemies." The millionaire looked at her with a mix of astonishment, deep respect, and gratitude. This fragile little girl in a simple dress had become his only true ally amid betrayal, corruption, and mortal danger. "Maybe," he replied firmly, his voice steady and full of willpower so that everyone could hear, "but not today, and not by you." Within seconds that felt like eternity, the building's internal security agents arrived, followed by police cars summoned by the emergency button, sirens blaring. The traitorous guards were surrounded and detained. There were scuffles, one tried to break free. There were curses in mixed languages, glances full of hatred and promises of revenge. But in the end, all 4 were handcuffed and led away, shoved into police cars. The millionaire didn't move, holding the little girl close to him until he saw the traitors completely disappear from sight, until the cars vanished around the corner. Only then, when the danger had truly passed, did he allow himself to exhale. He crouched down to the girl's level, his expression filled with deep, sincere seriousness. His eyes were wet. "You saved my life," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "I will never, do you hear me? Never forget what you've done for me. You're the bravest person I've ever met." She looked at him with a touch of shyness, a childlike modesty, as if only now realizing the full weight of what had happened, that she had truly saved a human life. "I just repeated what I heard," she whispered. "My grandma always says that keeping quiet about something bad is almost the same as helping evil happen. That when good people stay silent, bad ones win." Her words struck him straight in the soul, the very part of it where long-forgotten principles and youthful ideals had once lived. He had spent recent years surrounded by flatterers and opportunists, advisors and partners who cared only about his money and influence, people who would do anything for wealth. And yet it was this little girl, expecting absolutely nothing in return, not even knowing who he was, who had shown him the true value of truth, honesty, and humanity. "Your grandmother is a very, very wise woman," he said with a genuine smile, the kind of real smile that had rarely graced his face in recent years. "And you're wise too, and incredibly brave." Another car, thoroughly checked by Sanchez and the bomb squad, was quickly prepared. Before getting in, the millionaire took a moment to look carefully at the girl, to memorize her face. He knew in his heart that this little girl had not only changed his day, not only saved his life, but had completely transformed the way he would see the world, people, and life itself. "Listen to me carefully," he said seriously, looking her straight in the eyes. "I want you to know this and remember it. From this day on, from this very moment, you won't be alone. You and your grandmother. I will personally make sure that you get everything you deserve and even more. The best education in the best schools, full protection, a dignified life. And most importantly, that you will never, under any circumstances, have to stay silent about what you know." The girl didn't answer right away, thinking over his words. But her eyes began to shine, with relief, with hope, with a child's quiet joy. Finally she nodded and smiled, for the first time since it all began. The millionaire slowly got into the new car. But before Sanchez closed the door, he looked at the girl once more, fixing the image in his mind. That picture would remain with him forever. The small girl in a simple green dress, standing firm like a rock in the face of deadly danger and fear. As the car slowly moved through the city streets, he sat in silence, deeply reflecting on what had happened. His enormous wealth, his powerful corporations, his countless connections. All of it could have vanished in a single instant, within seconds, if he hadn't learned to recognize and value the truth, even when it came from the most unexpected, unbelievable source, from the lips of a 7-year-old child. And there, in the quiet of the luxurious car, with the distant hum of the evening city outside, he understood and accepted the most powerful, most important lesson he had ever learned in his entire life. True courage and bravery do not depend on a person's age, wealth, or power, but only on their inner strength and willingness to speak the truth, to do what is right when everyone else chooses silence out of fear or self-interest. He never did find out whether the conspiracy against him was part of something larger, a greater plot, but he understood and accepted one thing with absolute clarity. His fate, his very life, had been forever changed by the timely intervention of someone so small and seemingly insignificant, a little girl. Life had taught him an unforgettable lesson. Immense fortune and wealth can be bought with money, but genuine loyalty and honesty appear only where you least expect to find them. Deeply moved by everything that had happened, he closed his eyes for a long moment and thought to himself, "I solemnly swear that I will never again underestimate the voice of the innocent and the young, because they often see and understand what we, the adults, cynical, tired, and blinded by pride, refuse to acknowledge or accept." The echo of that life-changing lesson would stay with him forever, until the end of his days. And as the little girl walked home that unforgettable evening, hand in hand with the police officer escorting her for safety, neither of them could have imagined that soon the entire world, every news channel, every reporter, would stop and listen to their incredible story of courage and salvation. Because the truth is, No one ever knows in advance who might save their life, or from where the saving truth will come. But when it finally appears before you, there is only one thing to do. Embrace it, accept it, and remember it forever, passing that story on to the generations to come.